We know that every few seasons, Apex loves to switch up the game and completely change the meta, whether it's through huge new gameplay changes or crazy patch notes, like in Season 16 when they changed the Legend class system and gave the Legends new perks, and in Season 20 when we got the whole new Legend perk system, and even in Season 22 we got the new Akimbo weapons for the P2020 in Mozambique. As you can see, Apex loves to shake up the way we play the game, and it's only a matter of time before the developers implement a whole new change that may also be a controversial one. And in this video, we're going to be talking about an upcoming change that may be coming to Apex based on leaks from playtesters who have been testing out a brand new change that the devs are working on that a lot of you will probably hate. So some rumors have been spreading around as supposedly someone with inside knowledge has released some information regarding new gameplay features that the developers are testing for the future of Apex, with these changes being estimated to take place in Season 25 if they actually go through with them. And to sum up these tests, they're changing how the loot system works and trying to implement a new weapon loadout system for Battle Royale matches, where instead of looting your weapons from the ground, you just spawn out of the dropship with 2 weapons of your choice, and these attachments will level up throughout the game. In one of the developers' tests, they've decided to remove all guns from the ground loot, and in the lobby you can choose different loadouts that will be offered to you when you start the match. So you'll be able to make a few classes like in Call of Duty, and at the start of the game you'll choose one of them and you'll spawn in with those 2 weapons. And you can still change the guns throughout the map, but you'd be able to do this through the replicators. So imagine Apex where you didn't loot for your weapons, instead you spawned with them, and then you can choose your other loadouts in the middle of the game by going and crafting them at a replicator. Personally, I think that does not sound like a good change. That sounds like a terrible way of playing Battle Royale, spawning in with the weapons of your choice. I think the looting part of Battle Royale is still an important aspect, and that just doesn't really make much sense to me. Now, in a second test, they also tried removing all guns and attachments from the ground loot, and again you'll choose your loadout at the start of the match, and instead of looting your attachments throughout the game, your gun would automatically get upgraded throughout the game depending on the round. So imagine at the start it will all have grey attachments, then during the second ring closing you will get blue attachments, then the third ring closing you get purple, and then the fourth ring and onwards you have legendary weapons. Imagine everybody in the final ring running around with legendary weapons, because that's just how the game works. I suppose you wouldn't spend time looting at all to get attachments on your weapons, and all you'd really have to loot is a few healing items and maybe some grenades and maybe survival items. But other than that, all your weapons would be terrible at the start of the game and get progressively better. Again, I don't like the sound of this. I think looting and finding a good attachment for your weapon is part of the Battle Royale experience, and finding a really good attachment like a golden mag towards the start of the game just gives you a nice confidence boost when going into fights and does make you play better, but having to wait until the very end of the game to get a better weapon just doesn't sound that great. Now, in a third test that they did the same thing. They removed all guns and attachments from the ground, but instead this time they made you level up your gun with your Evo shield. So imagine your weapons are attached to your Evo level. So as you level up, let's say to blue armor, you'll get blue attachments. Purple armor, you'll get purple attachments, and when you get to red armor, then you'll get a gold legendary weapon. Now, I think maybe this sounds a little bit better than the last one, but still, I don't like the sound of not being able to loot your attachments. But it's clear the devs are testing with this theory, and having more things attached to your Evo level does make some sense. Let's say your backpack and your helmet were attached to your Evo shield, so as you leveled up, you got a better helmet and you got a better backpack. I could see that being a more reasonable change, but having your weapons attached to your Evo, I don't know, let me know. Does that sound like a good idea? It would be satisfying leveling up to purple Evo and watching your gun fully upgrade with all of its attachments to purple level attachments. You would feel pretty strong, but I don't think that's right for Battle Royale. That sounds like an LTM and not your normal casual and ranked BR experience. Well, supposedly they also did a fourth test where they removed most guns from the floor. They removed all attachments and all ammo from the ground, and you'd spawn in with your loadout, but apparently this time, different weapons would have different buffs based on the legend you're using. Like if you're using Mad Maggie and a shotgun at the same time, apparently they tested a version where different legends would have different weapon combos, where they'd give you a perk like faster reloads or faster ADS or increased mag sizes, and if you use those weapons with a different legend, then you get a debuff, or you wouldn't get the buffs at all. But then apparently, if you played long enough with a specific legend and weapon combo, then you'd unlock the weapon buffs for that weapon with every legend. It sounds pretty complicated. It sounds like it's just putting more restrictions on the player, like you'd have to use a certain weapon with a certain legend. That just seems way too much, and in my opinion, I don't think they'd ever do that. But it's interesting that the developers even considered testing these ideas. Now, apparently in all these tests where you'd spawn in with a loadout and not loot your weapons from the ground, you could still loot weapons from enemies' death boxes and in care packages, but that's it. So what do you think? Apex Legends, where you don't loot for your weapons and attachments, and instead you spawn with them. Does that sound like a good update? And as I stressed at the start of this video, these seem to be tests that the devs are taking place for long into the future, so many of this is subject to change. They're just trying out ideas to see what might stick, and the fact that this gets leaked allows the devs to hear feedback from the players on some of the internal tests that they're doing, and if a lot of people don't like the idea of this, I'm sure that will help the developers themselves realize this might be a pretty terrible change. We'll probably see some kind of LTM with this exact thing going on for the devs to test out and see feedback from the community. That seems to happen quite a lot. Like at the moment in Apex with the revival game modes where you have unlimited respawns as long as your team is alive, is very likely the developers testing that idea to see if maybe they could add it into casual battle royale or maybe even ranked. The devs love testing features, and it's clear that we're going to have a big update sometime in the next few seasons that will completely change Apex. The fact that developers are even testing this shows that they do want to do more changes to the game and completely switch things up. So set season 25 in your calendars for some big changes coming to Apex, but much closer than season 25 is next season, which will kick off at the end of October and could be bringing one big change to Apex for any of you Lifeline mains. The rumored Lifeline Revived, which had some pretty solid evidence as Crowrindo shared insider images where you can see in the dev build of the game, Lifeline Revived is a real character and has a real set of abilities like the Shockbot 3000, an ultimate ability that pushes enemies away from you and creates a barrier that they can't walk through. Well, the leakers did say that this was actually planned for season 23, so that's seemingly just around the corner, and that means in less than 2 months, if you're a Lifeline main, you'll be able to glide around on her dock drone with her new passive ability, or even make good use of her improved tactical ability, which was leaked to be able to follow you around and attach to you and your teammates to heal you on the go. So if all this is set to come next season, we have some exciting updates ahead of us before we get anywhere near these rumored season 25 changes, like removing weapons and attachments from the ground and giving you custom loadouts. Honestly, I think it's crazy. So let me know in the comments what you think of these rumors. Would you like Apex if it was like this, or do you think this is an absolutely terrible idea? Anyway, we've got the mid-season update very soon, and there's a few changes coming in that, which I talked about in my last video, so you can go and watch that if you haven't already.